This is John Huddleston with the Better Tree Company, and today we're going to be doing a demonstration on how to treat trees that are infested with black pine leaf scale with a product called Xylam mixed with a product called Pentrabark. This is a systemic material that moves through the tree's vascular system and all the way up into the needles where the black pine leaf scale are. This treatment also works to protect trees against gold-spotted oak borer if you're up in the Idlewild area. But against black pine leaf scale, which hits long needle pines, this stuff works great. Black pine leaf scale is an armored scale, which means it creates a waxy coating over its back that protects it from predators and most other types of pesticide. So this stuff is great. You put a very, very small amount on the base of the tree, and as I was saying, it gets sucked in through the bark, into the tree's vascular system, into the xylam, and travels all the way up into the needles. Another good thing about this product is it does not have a long residual, so it's very, very targeted. The black pine leaf scale are going to be mostly active in May and June, so that's when we apply this material. It goes up there, it has very, very high efficacy. I think it's something like 94% efficacy. And then within 3 to 4 months time, it's broken down and it's out of the tree, and the tree remains non-toxic for the rest of the organisms that want to come and go through the forest. So right now I'm going to show you an example of how to apply the stuff. First off, we want to mix a whole quart of this Xylam here with 3 quarts of water, creating a full gallon. And then the Pentrabark gets mixed in 3 ounces per gallon. So that's if you're using milliliters, it's 90 milliliters or 3 ounces of the Pentrabark. The Pentrabark is actually going to help it move through the bark and into the xylem of the tree. The product we're using, Xylam, is the commercial name. The chemical name is dinotefuran. It is one of the neonicotinoids. Oh, a lot of high pressure there. It is a neonicotinoid. Oh. So we want to make sure that we don't spray this on any places where bees are actively foraging. No plants that are in flower. We gotta lose some of that pressure. But yeah, any plants that might be in flower right now, we want to avoid spraying, because that could unnecessarily come in contact with bees. But just on the bark like this, where it gets sucked inside the tree and moves entirely systemically, it has no ill effect on bees or any other insects really, than the insects that are actively feeding on the leaves and the wood parts of this tree. You may notice how I'm putting it in these stripes down the bark. The reason why is these pine trees have very, very thick bark. So the instructions on the label say to put it in a 48-inch band, so a 4-foot tall band completely around the tree. What I've found is it's better to use the same amount of material, but to trace the cracks like this, because there are air pockets in between these plates of bark. I mean, you can see. So if I was to spray this very expensive material on the outside of these air pockets here, it would just go to waste. You know, you can kind of see that right there. So we aim for the cracks, which is the closest we're going to get to the tree's vascular system. And we just, in a real low pressure, just drizzle it down. And I'm going to do this from about head height to about ankle height. Well, that's not true. As high as I can reach, so more like 8 feet probably. With this wand down to about ankle height, and what I found is that tends to be the same amount of material as if you were to do the 48-inch band. Now with this amount of material mixed at this rate, it's a 32-ounce rate, you should be able to cover 75 inches about of combined trunk diameter. So the diameter is the width of the tree, not the circumference, which is how big, how long it is around, but how wide it is. So this tree is about, I'd say, 22 inches of diameter. So we should be able to do a little more than 3 trees this size with 1 gallon of solution. I call this technique of just following the bark tracks, I call it tiger striping, because it kind of has that effect. And it's great. Haha. So it takes a little bit more time doing the tiger striping and just following the cracks, but it's really much more effective than just going around in a solid 48-inch band like the label recommends. And when you're doing this on oak trees have much more uniform bark. It's flatter and it has much less of these deep crevices and big air pockets between the plates. So you can usually just do a nice, easy 4-foot band around oaks. They're a little simpler. It's the same ratio of product though. You put a quart in, 3 quarts of water, and 3 ounces of pencher bark. It's very important to include the pencher bark. Without the pencher bark, this material does not effectively get sucked into the xylem underneath, where it can then get transported through the rest of the tree. It's also important to check your soil moisture before doing systemic applications. The whole idea is that the tree is able to move it through its vascular system. So if it's really hurting for a drink of water, you might put a sprinkler out for an hour or so, especially if you have some mulch. Mulch is really key to preserving soil moisture. Luckily, with a lot of these native trees up here on the mountain, they are used to years and years now of very dry springs and summers. So they've made their root investments deep underground where there's still plenty of soil moisture from the last few precipitation events we had up here. All right. That's it. That's tiger striping a pine tree for black pine leaf scale using dinoteffuron.